Tell your story, build your brand. artmedianorthwest.com. artmedianw.com. Now enjoy this conversation with Nate Mayers. All right, welcome. So today I'm interviewing Nate Mayers.
That's me.
That's you, guitar extraordinaire from, you want to talk about where you're from and kind of how you got here?
Yeah, it's a short story. I'm originally from San Diego, California, and I went to Oregon State for college. And once I graduated from there, I moved to Portland. That was it's kind of the long and short of it. Yeah.
All right, yeah. Nice and tidy there. All right, so we talked about where you grew up. Can you share one or two stories from your childhood and kind of how you got into music in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of been a part of my life. So, let's see. I remember, making music at a really early age, or at least trying to. Parents got me, a guitar from a catalog when I was in preschool, and I would kind of bash around on that. My dad would make mixtapes, and I thought it was just sorcery. So I was enamored with learning how to make mixtapes.
Yeah.
And so I actually, in that drawer over there, I have my first mixtape that I made.
Very cool.
It's got Louis Armstrong and then a bunch of pop country on it from
Nice.
1994.
Wow. So you're a wizard, really?
No,
No.
I still don't know how to make mixtapes. I was more fascinated with the end result, I think, than the actual process.
So I know you mostly as a guitar player and a music retail guru. You do contribute largely to the podcast that 5 Star Guitar has.
Mm-hmm.
So a guitar shop's guide to
Whatever we want to talk about. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. So can you talk a little bit about your music experience as a player, performer, recorder, and also your retail prowess that you have gained?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the job works really nicely for me because I'm able to play gigs and stuff like that, and I get discounts on really the only thing I spend disposable income on. And it's enough to pay bills, which I'm kind of happy with, at least at this point in my life. As far as experience kind of growing up and then playing, I started playing seriously, I suppose, when I was about 13, 14 with guitar. Before that, I had played trumpet for 4 or 5 years. I was really bad.
Was that in school?
It started probably in the 4th grade. We had this thing called the exploratory music program, and I originally wanted to be a fiddler. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And it just so happened that I don't know if I wanted to play trumpet or they needed more kids for the brass band. I remember the instructor's name was Mr. Tellinghusen.
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 That's a good name.
Yeah, and he was mean.
Oh.
He was always fine to me, but I practiced. And let's see, I took private trumpet lessons for a couple years, but I wanted to play, Smoke on the Water and stuff, and you can't play that on the trumpet. Or you can. It was I wanted to play drums, but the drums don't sound like the guitar riff.
Right.
I think I asked someone how to play it on the drums. I was like, that's not
how it goes.
That's not how it goes.
Or on the trumpet, you can't do parallel fifths at the same time.
I know this song.
Trumpet.
So I started playing the guitar. My younger brother had played the guitar before me for not terribly long.
Okay.
But we had a Yamaha kids guitar and a Slammer by Hamer.
Yeah.
Strat copy.
You know how to say both those names. Good job.
Yeah. With monster truck stickers on it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was cool.
So that's compelling for a young lad who's learning the guitar.
Well, yeah, I mean, my mom was saying you should maybe think about playing guitar. You can accompany yourself. You can take it to a party. It was I don't know. I don't think I'll do that. And then kind of growing up in Temple, I grew up Jewish, and so the synagogue we went to, the cantor there was oh, you can learn to play guitar and then you can help out at the services. I was well, if I can make money doing this, then I can buy G.I. Joes with that money.
There you go.
That's important.
So
in video games and such. So
You had your incentives.
had my incentive.
Yeah.
I got into it for the right reasons, you could say. And my friend's dad offered to teach me how to play. So I remember the first song I learned was Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash.
It's a good one.
I learned that one, and then I learned, maybe a couple other songs, and it was like 4 months into learning how to play the guitar, and he was like, so I guess I'm supposed to teach you like Jewish songs, and I was like, no, that's okay. I don't need to learn those.
Well, there are some pretty cool ones, so that's I like the accompaniment and like Hava Nagila and stuff like that.
So it, like, from a theoretical perspective, I guess it's kind of cool, but like if you're 14 and
right. It's a little less cool sounding than Should I Stay or Should I Go, especially if you're familiar with it. If it's new to you, then you're like, wow, what is this magic
It's
sound?
different, yeah.
So how many hats do you feel like you're wearing sort of in your career now as a musician?
Really, I'm mostly just a guitar player, which is great. That's where I want to be. That's what I want to do.
Playing with like 3 bands now ish. I mean, maybe not officially, but like
no. I have the rock band, and then I play with another band in Portland called Sloth, and that's fronted by Josh McCoskey.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of his project, and that's great fun. Because, with the rock band, it's a different kind of guitar playing than playing kind of funk and blues and that kind of music. So it's nice because it scratches a couple different itches. You get to play a lot of different things. And then I have a gig coming up in May, playing kind of like country music, sort of. So that'll be fun. I've played with James before, so that's been. It's a good time, and again, that's a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot less chords, more like double stops, single note runs, and it's more playing lead guitar than playing rhythm guitar, which is what I do in the other 2 bands.
Okay, you do rhythm in the other 2 bands,
pretty much exclusively.
Okay,
I think it's more interesting.
Sure,
and I just don't play very fast, so it's not really flashy. So when I do take a solo, I try to keep it brief, and I try to keep it to like 3 times a night.
Yeah, well, Josh is, you mentioned Josh McCoskey in the one band in Love Sloth, and then Michael's Calloway is
in the other band. Yeah,
Mr.
and they're both
Pink.
phenomenal. So they can play plenty fast for both of us.
So, Nate,
Yeah.
how do musicians make a living?
Well, a lot of people can kind of skin that cat a number of different ways. I can really only speak to my experience. Since I play in really only original projects, gigs don't pay a whole lot of money. Right. Playing in cover bands, I'm sure you'd get a lot more work, and I'm sure you'd make a lot more cash. But that's not where I'd like to focus my efforts. For me, it's a creative endeavor, so it's not to sound like pretentious or anything.
No.
That's just what's fulfilling to me.
I think that's important.
So for me, I have to work a straight job.
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe something catches on, and I get to
do more of
that, yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
But until then, it's kind of just that, and I mean, kind of focus and try to do things in my job that I can apply to bands and stuff like that. So try to use the job to grow new skills for like administrative things.
I think that's huge. So how can people better their odds for making a living in music or as an artist? I think you somewhat answered that, but if you want to expand on that some.
I mean, really just try to figure out how distribution works, how radio distribution works, what someone's going to look for. Essentially try to, you can pay $2,500 and have Never Better run a distribution campaign for you, or you figure out how to make a one sheet. You can figure out how to contact radio stations, how to, license your music with ASCAP or CSAC or BMI in order to collect royalties. And then, you can place it in MusicBed, or you can get placement in film and TV shows and try to collect some money that way, get placement in different podcasts or in different blogs or things like that, and really just try to get your music in front of as many people as you can. I think one really has to define what success is, is that, oh, wow, a lot of people are really into my band, it's hard to explain. Like, no one's going to be the Beatles, Dorian, who worked at the shop, is in a fairly successful band, Rare Monk. They 100,000 plays on Spotify, or many hundreds of thousands of plays. Showcased South by Southwest a number of times. They just opened for Young the Giant at the Crystal Ballroom. As far as I know, he still works 9 to 5.
Right.
So, you have to be fairly big or be willing to like put all your stuff in storage and stay out on the road all year, to make the same amount of money that you would working a job, and then you still have a place to go home to.
Right.
And I think the era of where musicians make a bunch of money is long gone.
Yeah.
I think one has to kind of diversify
unless you're in
themselves.
the 0.0 whatever percent.
Right. Or, you're touring behind an already major act.
Sure.
So you can certainly make a living as a hired gun. Of course, you have to be a lot better than I am. And you have to be willing to fit yourself, in an image.
Right.
And if you don't want to work for someone, if that's not the life you want to have, then... Not to sound pessimistic, I just don't think, going out on the road and making a bunch of money really happens a whole lot anymore. And it's a cultural shift, at least in America.
And as far as I've seen elsewhere too, I mean, I did a little bit of touring in Europe on my own, and I wasn't backed by anybody, and I booked my own gigs and had help from friends. But it was extremely humbling. It's like, and then I thought about it when I got back. It's like, well, if somebody from Budapest came here and was doing a gig down the road and I didn't know who they were and I've never heard of them and I saw their flyer once, I would probably not go see them, just because they came, thousands of miles to get here.
Right. You have to cast a wide net. My rock band opened for a band at the Twilight who had just charted in Canada. They were like number 10 on the Canadian alternative charts. I don't know what metric they're using, if that's like CBC radio but there were like 13 people at the show. Right. And I think we brought 9 of them.
Yeah.
It was also a Monday.
Right.
You really have to have a lot of marketing behind you in order to fill venues and sell tickets. And you have to constantly keep people engaged. And at the same time, today's consumer doesn't like to be sold to.
Right. It's a slippery slope.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and as a salesperson, I get it. So it's not...
It's not spam.
Right.
That's not going to help anybody.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so blasting people with we're doing this, you have to see this. Nobody cares.
Right.
But if you can get any amount of organic reach that you can build, that's really how you build a brand these days. Stay as consistent as possible for as long as possible. Mm-hmm. And slowly but surely you'll build a following out of people that are meaningful, right? Who you'll interact with and they'll interact with you. And that's one of the great things about social media is it kind of gives you a bullhorn to be able to do that. But at the same time, to what end are those companies harvesting data from users? And I think people are starting to get hip to this thing that's been happening since the inception of the technology. And people are starting to rethink the relationship with that. So even now, the industry's constantly in flux and everything's kind of changing.
Yeah. Change is volatile these days.
Yeah.
There's a post, I think it's Kevin Kelly, 1,000 True Fans. Have you heard of that?
What's the 1,000 True Fans? You tell me about that.
Yeah. So basically what a person needs or a band needs or an artist needs is 1,000 true fans. Mavens is another word for that, but basically people who are enthusiastically embracing your whatever the thing is and sharing it. And then it's creating something that is shareable as well, which is, so basically from that it grows. Mm-hmm. And that is what a person needs to sustain themselves according to I think it's a blog post. I think that's the difference. The Beatles had so many true fans, but that was so long ago.
But also what the Beatles were doing was...
It was new-ish.
Yeah, it was certainly a different... I mean, white people playing black music at the time had been forever. Skiffle had been a thing forever.
And Elvis.
Right. I think what the Beatles did is just wrote killer songs.
Yeah.
And were really harnessed the power of the studio at the time. And I mean, a lot of luck, too. There in this business is luck.
Yeah. Right place, right time, right, demographic and all that stuff. There's a lot of factors. Did the place and time that you grew up and mentors that you had impact how you learned?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started playing guitar, Guitar Hero 3 had just come out, so it dates myself a little bit. I'm 25.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty young. So naturally, you learn the songs that are on the game. And so the songs that are on the game are like Slow Ride, Rock and Roll All Night. I imagine around, because you've been teaching guitar a long time, so around 2006, 2007, these are probably popular songs with the children.
Right.
Rocky Like a Hurricane, Sweet Child of Mine. Was Sweet Child of Mine? No, I don't think it was. Welcome to the Jungle was on that game. So, you start to learn things like that. School's Out, Sunshine of Your Love. And oddly enough, that game introduced me to so much great music. Like not just the music that was on the game, but like the stuff that those artists did apart from the hits. So that was really influential to me. Not only that, but like after I finished taking lessons with Tony, my friend's dad, we got lessons at the Blue Guitar with a guy named Steve Nichols. And Steve had been a musician for years, plays in a band in San Diego called Crosswinds, and plays in a band called the Gypsy Swing Cats. They're incredible. He's a phenomenal guitar player. And Steve would just kind of be like, all right, so what do you want to learn? And like, I don't know, this maybe. So he would kind of teach it to me, but then he would try to teach me the theory behind it.
Right.
And
you use this scale, these chords, and whatever.
I just couldn't put it together.
Funny.
This is not what I was interested in. I was interested in like playing the Judas Priest riff. But what he did teach me was how to like the very, very basics for playing blues. And from there, it just kind of took off for me. I really dove into that because for the first time, it was something that I was really into heavy metal and hard rock. And this was this thing that sounded great that seemed attainable to me.
Nice.
It was, okay, well, this is something that I can do well, or that I can see myself doing well. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to play a million notes a minute for it to happen. So I kind of started to do that. At the time, let's see, I was 15 or so. I took lessons with him for probably 6 months to a year, somewhere in there. And then after that, I just kind of looked up YouTube videos and stuff like that. So knowing that information's out there, you can, as long as you know how to sift through the good and bad information.
Right. There's a lot of both.
Right. I think we live in a time where you can learn as much as you're willing to.
Yeah. Information isn't the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's putting in the time, to really get it. In your opinion, what are some of the best ways someone can learn the skills that you've cultivated as a guitarist, as a communications person, salesperson, whatever you want to call it?
Oh, I mean, like, you just have to do it. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. At least with, I think everyone will tell you, like, the biggest thing with music is you have to practice. You teach a lot of young guitar students. And I think anyone that thinks it's just gonna work for them overnight they're not being realistic about it. Or like when somebody buys a guitar, you say, well, how long is it gonna take me to get good at it, to be able to play like you? And it's like, well, I've been playing for over 10 years, and I'm still better than some, not as good as others.
Sure.
So
you've only been playing for 10 years.
10, 11 years, yeah.
Wow. I was so bad comparatively after 10 years. Because you're really good at the guitar, like.
Thank you.
Seriously. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really just kind of sitting down and doing it. With anything. With sales, I don't necessarily, like, of course my job is to put money in the till, and to do that, these people come in and they're excited to learn a new skill, or they're excited to take on a new endeavor, and I'm excited to give them the information and kind of the advice that they need to continue on it. So for me, it's not about selling you a first guitar. It's about showing you how great this is and helping you find the right thing for how much money you want to spend.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's not...
You're not forcing somebody into something. They came in because they want to learn an instrument and buy an instrument, and you're kind of helping give them some knowledge.
Right. All I can do is give you all the information to make the decision, but you, at the end of the day, have to be the one to say, well, I want to buy this guitar. Are there times when, like, maybe I'll push a little harder because it's a higher pressure sale and I want to sell a $3,000 amplifier? Of course I want to sell a $3,000 amplifier. Like, that's great. We don't work on commission, but it feels really good.
And it sounds really good. Like, you know that there's the after effect of it is a lot of joy coming out of hearing and playing through that. You know?
Right. And that, I suppose that's one of the things about working at a guitar store that's really, really nice. You know, you get to talk to a lot of different people, and oftentimes we won't talk. We'll talk about the specs and stuff like that, but we'll talk about, well, what kind of music do you listen to? What do you want to play? And then you start talking about artists, and you start talking about all sorts of stuff. You know, what do you do for work? As long as people feel like that you just want to talk to them, and you're genuinely interested in their lives, and I like talking to people and hearing their stories and stuff. So people end up coming back and trusting you. And, you know.
That's fulfilling work. It's
Yeah,
good.
and to some people, it's like going in, clocking in, and then, you know, maybe doing some stuff until you leave. Not anyone that I work with currently. For other people at other shops, I'm sure that's how it is.
Sure. Well, it's noticeably that way sometimes
Yeah.
when you go some places. So how should people go about finding their passion or starting their creative life? How
Oh, I don't
would
know.
you
Just
recommend?
go try stuff. It's there. If you like working with your hands, there's a lot of cool things. If you like, I don't know, like one thing a lot of people maybe don't know is I really like throwing pottery. I haven't been able to do it since high school, but I was pretty good at it. And if I could have a wheel here, I would play a lot less guitar because I would do that. I kind of get into weird things.
Yeah.
You just do them.
Yeah, that's got to be fun. Like,
Yeah.
it looks like it would be a lot of fun. I haven't done it much, just in like art in school.
Yeah.
You know, a million years ago, but
Right, but you just go try stuff, and if you find you have a knack for something, keep going with it. If you don't have a knack for something, chances are you won't, and that frustrates you, then keep going. Maybe eventually you won't be frustrated.
yeah. So there's a saying, follow your bliss. Do you feel like that is a good thing?
Oh,
Or is it too vague?
I think it's kind of vague, and it's also kind of a double-edged sword in a sense. If I followed my bliss, I would be smoking weed and watching Netflix all day. I would be perfectly happy doing that. It would be no problem. But I am a firm believer that, you know, one only has a finite amount of time, you know, on the earth, and when you're gone, you're just kind of gone. Many can speculate about an afterlife. I don't think there's any point. So I guess just do whatever makes you happy, whatever that is. Do as much as you can of it.
Do you feel like their lives are more enriched when they're sort of helping somebody else out in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I think helping others certainly makes you feel good. I think that's true. I was thinking about that recently, like when one helps others, and if they do it because it makes them feel good, is it really a selfless act? And I think it is. I think I just end up overthinking it.
No, that's a good point. It's a little bit selfish, I think, but it's also selfless because you're really...
But the end result helps someone in need. So,
Yeah.
So I suppose you get a pass on that one.
So how has technology changed music and creative arts in general?
Oh, well, it's democratized them greatly. Like we were saying earlier, Facebook and social media, and essentially the internet has allowed anyone to put their stuff out there. So on one end, you're able to have this great reach that you never would have had without a label and a manager or a publisher if you're an author, an agent. But there's so much out there that the industry is so inundated with, for lack of a better term, not very good art. I would consider it subjectively bad. I don't think anything's objectively awful.
There's things like, you know, if you go back in time, Andy Warhol's art and, you know, Jackson Pollock and stuff like that. I mean, there's a ton of people that are rabid fans of that stuff, and then there's other people that are just like, meh, it doesn't do anything for me, or I don't get it, you know?
Sure. But Pollock was an incredibly talented painter. It wasn't just splatters.
Right.
No,
I love Jackson Pollock. There's in Buffalo in the Albright Knox Art Gallery, there's a Jackson Pollock there. And I actually had to write a paper on it in school. And then when I came to Portland State and started studying with my teacher, Brian Johansson there, I walked in and the first print on my left was the same print of that painting. And I was just like, oh my God. So it was like this immediate connection to my past, which I thought was cool.
We both moved. What year did you move here?
Here, I was 21, so a million years ago. Back before cars existed. No, I'm just kidding. It was 1991. 91.
Okay, so 2 years before I was born. The city must have changed
Yeah.
immensely.
Yeah.
Have you always lived outside the city, or?
No, I lived downtown. I lived on campus at Portland State for 2 years. 1 year in the Montgomery, 1 year in the Ondine, and then I also lived in North Portland on Wabash at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then mostly I've been in Hillsborough, Aloha, and Beaverton.
It's crazy. I've only lived in Beaverton.
Oh, really?
When I was thinking about moving up here, I was like certain I was going to live in Gresham.
It's so funny. You seem like an East Side guy.
It's like, I'm going to move to Gresham. I'm
Right.
going to get a chemistry set. I'm going to fit right in. This will be fine. And all of my friends in college were like, don't move to Gresham. What are you thinking? It's like, guys, it'll be fine. I don't understand. What could possibly be that bad about Gresham? They're like, it's the worst place. I'm like, yeah. All I hear is it's cheap.
Right. Well, there's something to be said for that. It's very expensive these days living here.
Well, and then I ended up off of 117th in Beaverton, which was also cheap, and I found out why quickly.
Yeah.
My first day in Portland, we were unloading stuff from the truck, and a guy walks up to me. He starts talking to me about stuff. He's like, "Hey, man, you ever need anything like drugs, a hand cannon? You give me a call." And he gave me his number and like jumped into his Mazda with a huge spoiler and just like.
This is welcome to Beaverton. Wow.
I thought this was a nice place.
Yeah. Well, what's so funny is because Portland is a relatively clean city. It's a relatively safe city compared to a lot. But yeah, there's shady people everywhere, I guess. All right. So moving on. So how has technology changed music and creativity for you specifically?
Well, I'm able to do a lot more. I didn't know how to do anything in Photoshop until I just looked it up. I probably would have had to take a class 10 years ago. Now I don't.
It's amazing. It's incredible what you can learn.
Yeah.
Just spending some time. One video I watched on filmmaking said, write down all of these things that you should learn. He said, find 3 videos on each of those things, watch each one twice, and then go do it. And put it to use, because it's, doing is the experience.
Well, that's what's going to make it stick.
Yeah, exactly. When did music become your business, and how has your job changed over the years?
I guess it became like fully what I did when I started a couple years ago when I started working at the shop. Before that, I had always wanted to be a musician and always, played in bands and things like that. But, I always figured like, all right, I'm going to get through college. I'm going to get this history degree. I'm going to go be a teacher. That's what I'm going to do.
History degree.
Yeah, I didn't want to. That ended up not being great. There was this professor who's like, the only way for you people to learn is to have someone who's much smarter than you, i.e. me, stand up here and lecture you for 2 hours, and then you're going to go home and write 1,000 words about it. No, paying too much money for this to be a thing. So I've got bands to go play in. I'm not going to do this.
So did that happen, the history degree, or?
No, I switched to a degree in digital communications because I could get school credit for working at the radio station.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of short-sighted decision-making. It's things like that. It's like, oh, I can get language credits for studying abroad. I can drink there, right? Perfect. Yeah, I'm going. I can get paid and get these 9 credits knocked out and hang out at the radio station and have an office with air conditioning. I'm there.
That's pretty savvy education there. if you can swing it.
Yeah.
So you went to Sicily?
Yeah, I studied abroad in Sicily. It was kind of funny. It was like an anthropology heavy. When I was thinking about switching my major, I was thinking about switching to anthropology because I've always kind of enjoyed that. And our professor, the first day of class, was like, okay, so everyone has to do a presentation about the local culture. And there was this whole list of stuff, and one of them was viticulture, so winemaking. And nobody, for whatever reason, nobody had called it by the time it was my turn. And I said, viticulture, that's me. And I'm this 19-year-old kid there. And I go up to the professor afterwards, and I'm like, hey, so listen, for my presentation, I want to run a wine tasting. And he's like, Yeah, that sounds great. Go buy a bunch of stuff, bring it back, give me the receipt, and I'll reimburse you. Okay, great. Can we do it next Friday? So I went and bought like 40, 50 euros worth of, like, none of it was good wine. That was not the point. And we had a wine tasting in class run by an underage student
In Italy.
in Italy. Not underage there, but
Right.
I don't think there was one Italian in the class.
Oh, funny. So everybody was
Yeah.
from here or from different
From
places?
Oregon State, yeah. A couple of students from Portland State.
Okay.
Yeah, it was that was my favorite memory of that. I have a lot of favorite memories from it. We had 4-day weeks, so it was Monday through Thursday. I know I said the tasting was on a Friday. That I don't remember a lot. We had Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you just like do whatever you wanted. We found out that like you take the bus system, like just to different towns and cities and stuff. You get a rail pass, and it's not that hard to get around this island. So my roommate and I, we like snorkeled all summer. Went to various cafes and bars and like different festivals around churches. There's this one in a place called Acitrezza called the Swordfish Festival. We just caught wind of it. We're like, all right, well, we have to figure out what this is about. And for €6, you got a little loaf of semolina bread. You got like a little side salad, a swordfish steak that was about that big, and a cup like this full of white wine. Like, well, this is great. And then we just found as many of those as we could. It was a good summer.
So was it culture shock for you in a way? In some ways?
Sort of. I mean, it was a little weird, like landing in Rome, and then they say the announcements over the PA in Italian, and they don't say them in English. You're like, oh, well, I have to find my gate. I don't know where that is. And they changed it like 3 times.
Oh, wow.
So I just had to find the gate and then just follow the herd of people. And like I magically made the plane.
Wow.
Got off, got through customs. They didn't look in my bag. I was like, this is it. Excellent. So now I'm at the airport in Sicily where even less people speak English. And I have to get from the airport to this hotel. Or not to the hotel, the place we're staying. I don't know where that is. I don't know where any of this is. I know they said I could take a bus, but like I think I'm just gonna get a cab. That'll at least hopefully get me closer. And it did.
Did it work?
Yeah, I made it.
Well, good job. So, what is a song, album, or artist that you would recommend listening to?
I feel like whatever I answer, I'm gonna be like, oh, I should have said this.
Yeah.
I would recommend everybody listen to Father John Misty's third record, which is pure comedy. I think it's really good. I think the songs are really strong. I think the instrumentation is really good. I think the arrangements are also really good.
Nice. What is the instrumentation?
He has a traditional band, but there's a lot of orchestration in it. And
Okay.
so it's just, the parts are really well crafted. And
What decade was that recorded in?
I think it was released 3-4 years ago. Yeah, it's just really good.
Nice.
People say it reminds them of Elliott Smith. I can hear it, but it's different.
Okay. Nice. I'll check it out. Is creativity or skill more important as a musician/artist?
I'd say both are important in their own way, you know. I try to do the most with the skill that I have, and I guess that's where being creative comes into it. Like if you're going to be a hired musician and you need to play parts exactly as they can, then I would suppose skill is really important. If you're going to be participating in writing an album or things like that, then of course skill is important, but how creative you're able to be and how you're able to use the tools you have is more important. I think there was like a survey that people did on the streets of New York or something that gave people a brick. They're like, what would you do with this brick? And you're like, oh, well, I could build a foundation. I could build it's like things you could do with just a brick. And the people that were more creative were like, oh, well, I could use it as a paperweight. I could use it as a doorstop. I could use it any number of ways that you could only use one brick. Things like that. Cut it up into 100 little tiny bricks and build a tiny house.
That's creative.
It's a lot more work than I think is really worth it.
So you'd have a lot of dust. What are some difficult times you faced as an artist?
Oh, well, I mean, everyone kind of struggles with whatever it is they're kind of going through. For me, bouts of anxiety, followed by bouts of depression. When one feels like one's stagnating in their career, I think you kind of feel lost, and that'll impact all aspects of your life. Yeah, I mean, just general mental health issues, fairly common for everyone.
It is, yeah. That is as an artist, you've felt that, or that's in general?
Well, as an individual, yeah. And then let's see, in college, there was like a bout where I had broken up with girlfriend, and I had just turned 21, so I had all this access to alcohol, and I was not living at my parents' place, so there was no one that was like, hey, buddy, you really probably shouldn't like start drinking at 9 in the morning until you pass out at 2, get up at 4, and then drink again until you pass out at 10.
Nobody said that.
Nobody said that, so I just did that.
You found that out the hard way.
So
it's just like, oh.
So I mean,
So you worked through that.
Yeah.
Figured it out.
Yeah, figured it out. It was like, that might not be the best way to live one's life. Some great memories. I was like, I remember that as a fun time. And then my friend was like, I just remember you crying like every night.
So this is the
I was like,
difference,
God.
right? Well, you got it out, I guess. You just needed to get it out, I guess.
I suppose. I mean, there are a number of evenings where like you wake up in your bed and you're like, how'd I get home? Why are my pants off?
Sounds like lyrics in a song.
Haven't figured out how to put them in there. So I guess the same amount of difficulty as anyone else, I suppose.
Yeah. How have you learned to overcome adversity?
Well, I'd say that's something I'm still learning how to do. I think we all continue to learn how to do it throughout our entire lives. You just gotta, at least for me, I have to try to just kind of push through it and do the things that are hard. So for me, it'll, like any of that'll kind of manifest itself as like avoidance of a situation. It's like, oh, well, I don't know how to...
Escapism or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's probably what I struggle with the most. And exercising in like just confronting an issue and taking care of it is probably the biggest thing.
How important is music to film and video storytelling?
Oh, I think it's a huge component of it. You can watch a scary movie without the sound, and it's a lot less scary.
True.
I think it really helps set the mood of a scene. You think of like the cliche example to use would be the Mr. Blonde scene in Reservoir Dogs, where he's dancing around and cuts the cop's ear off without stuck in the middle with you. That scene's disgusting.
There's a lot of those scenes that are disgusting in a lot of those films.
Yeah.
But the music really is incredible. Like, it's such a good fit.
Right. Well, and that's kind of how Tarantino directs.
Yeah.
He's a nut. He is insane. But he talks about making a movie. He's like, well, yeah, in my head, I figured, oh, the music will do this and the camera will do this. Really, he's talking about cutting on beat and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's wildly important.
Yeah. The ones I'm more familiar with are Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill 1 and 2. Like, just...
But without the music...
The music just is so awesome. And then, like, there is, like, fierce comedy mixed in with all of the, like, just crazy stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
And the delivery, I think the acting's so good.
Yeah.
Like, Samuel L. Jackson's just so good.
Yeah. Or like in Apocalypse Now, in the first scene of Willard in the hotel room in Saigon, and the tree line blowing up to The Doors' The End. And that song's a consistent theme throughout the movie. It plays again at Kurtz's camp. It's just really well done. When
you write your songs, do you ever get imagery? I mean, obviously there's some imagery in the songwriting itself, but do you ever imagine like it being in a film, or like how it would fit with certain types of scenes or whatever?
No, not really.
Okay. That's just something that left to the filmmaker to figure out.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Somebody else writes the chord progression, but you're finding your parts.
Oh, that just comes down to sheer consumption for musicians. Listen to as much music as you can, listen to as many different types of music as you can, and listen to it as often as you can, and eventually you'll just have melodies and stuff kicking around in your head, and it'll here, if you want to pass me the acoustic guitar.
Sure.
So like if you have Okay, cool. That's tuned. If you have a chord progression like what could kind of fit over that, and then you can kind of
piece it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful.
I think it's helpful. It's great to hear the example. I like that. Thank you.
Not that those would go like necessarily together, but in the same sort of song, think about what kind of mood you want to evoke, and theory really helps with that. It'll kind of give you a roadmap and show you where you can go.
Yeah. What's cool about that is there was theory applied, like the notes that you chose as you're sort of like on the strong beats were tonal to the key, but then you had chromaticism where you were moving towards something through notes outside of the key. So that's cool. It's good stuff. Creates motion. So how well does the system work for people and for musicians? The system in quotes.
The system, man?
Yeah, the system, man.
I talk about it at length. I don't think that our society is necessarily set up to give people a fair shake as much as we would like to believe it is. And I mean, if you're going to decide to be an artist and not really make any money, I'm going to assume you're not doing it for the money. So even outside of that, if you don't have a degree, or if you have a bachelor's in certain, you went and got your bachelor's in art or got your bachelor's in music or things like that, and you don't want to be a music educator, things like that, there are certain paths that are laid out for you that you can, that this is what you can do, or after that, that's as good as it's going to get. It's perplexing to me when people just say, "Oh, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps." If you're graduating, and I was fortunate enough to graduate from college with no debt.
That helps.
Yeah, that helps a great deal. But for those in a different situation than myself, you have these payments, and any job wants 3 to 5 years experience for an entry level position. How are you supposed to, until somebody just gives you a break?
Right.
Or if you don't have a college degree, you can only get so far in life. It used to be like, oh, well, you could be a journeyman somewhere. You can do this. You can do that. There's so much. And now people won't even look at that unless you have a college degree. And even getting into college, if you don't test well, how is that if you have test anxiety or things like that? I don't consider myself to be an exceedingly smart person. When I took the SAT, it was out of 2,400. I scored 1,400. So I missed 1,000 points. A lot of that was because I didn't study. Some of it was because I was nervous.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't study is because I was nervous. I think the way that we currently assess people's worth is supremely backwards. And I think once somebody doesn't fit the mold of what our society wants them to be, we cast them aside. And I don't really think that's okay. We demonize things like drug and alcohol abuse and things like that, and we don't worry about the root causes that can cause these things.
Pain is at the source of it.
Out of anything, and we don't, because we're not addressing the root causes, we end up just punishing these people, or and then once something's on your record, you can't get a job, and once you can't get a job, you still have to make money, and so how are you going to go make money? Well, any way you can. And we've essentially manufactured a criminal at that point. It's rather heartbreaking, the sort of get ahead at all costs mindset that I think we as a society have as a whole. And that doesn't even get into like, oh, well, we need to tax the rich or have universal health care or things like that. There are so many things where, like, if you're not in good health and in good social standing, like, you can forget about all of these things that you're just supposed to have. I don't think anyone should really have to make the distinction, like, should I pay rent or should I put food on the table? Should I pay my electric bill or should I have insurance? Right. That with the world we live in today, I think these things are a fundamental human right. Access to healthcare, access to food, access to water. And access to living situation. If you believe in inalienable human rights like life, liberty, and property, people should be able to take that from you.
These are the problems we face as a society.
Well, we face a lot of problems. Yeah. I think the big one is greed. how much does any one person need before you're just happy?
Right. Well, there's plenty of people with plenty
Right.
that are unhappy,
Yeah.
and vice versa without that are unhappy, and plenty without that are very happy. So
Well, I think it was something like after you make over $100,000 a year, quality of life is negligible between somebody that makes $2 million a year and $100,000 a year.
right, yeah, it's like if you can afford all of your bills and everything is paid and all that, you're in good standing. You're 9% happier on average.
Right.
And then once you get beyond that, that doesn't increase your happiness, is what I've heard. How well do schools prepare kids for the real world?
Oh, that's a bad question for me because I didn't try very hard in school.
Is that the fault of the school or of you or of the education system or some combination?
If you had asked 14-year-old Nathan, it would have been the school's fault, 100%.
course.
But now that you're asking me, 100% my fault. So many more opportunities, but I just kind of chose to fuck around. I mean, it was cool. I learned how to play the guitar. Yep, that's about it. So, I mean, everyone's on their own path.
So
You'll
true.
either learn it the hard way or learn it the easy way.
I seem to have learned almost everything the hard way over the years. Everything that I've learned so far. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about current projects that you're working on? We've touched upon some of the bands that you play with and where you would like to focus your energy over the next few years.
All my projects are top secret.
Okay.
No,
There you go. You'd tell me, but you'd have to kill me.
I would.
Yeah.
I would. No, I am, let's see, just writing a bunch right now. Writing a whole lot, and
Can you talk about your process with writing?
yeah, I usually write a chord progression or something and then think about things that go with it, and it's not terribly scientific. I don't sit down and go, I'm going to write a song today.
Right.
I know that is how some people do it. I was never able to do it that way. I don't know. I think of something, and then I think of the band it might fit in, and then I bring it to that person and kind of workshop it and see what happens.
Do you do any solo projects, solo recording?
No, I would like to, but I just haven't written any songs that I think would suit that. I don't know what I would want my solo project to be. I'm trying to develop a taco recipe. That's been good.
Taco recipe.
Taco recipe. Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
Tacos are good.
it's vegan taco filling, so
Okay.
it's always a work in progress. Every time gets a little bit better.
Have you had the Impossible Burger yet?
Yeah, it's the best one out there, but I still rather have a portobello mushroom, just grilled.
Those are delicious.
Yeah, it's surprisingly meaty.
With lemongrass. And have you had that at Stanford's?
With lemongrass?
Yeah.
Stanford's? No.
Yeah.
No, restaurants with only last names are too expensive for me.
Fair enough. Well, the Indian food you bought yesterday is more expensive than the
Yeah, probably
than the
is.
portobello mushroom burger at Stanford's. So.
Yeah, but the dosa was calling my name.
It was
I
delicious.
was like, I
though,
needed
yeah.
the chutney, and
What current or future plans do you have for music, arts, creative works, and business?
do you mean before I write a mega hit?
Yeah.
I plan on doing exactly what I'm doing
Nice.
for as long as I can. Hopefully, record a couple albums in the next couple of years with various projects and put them out. Get a little bit better at releasing stuff every time. Maybe tour a little bit, play some festivals.
That's great. Yeah. I think it's awesome that you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
What are one or two memorable stories from your music career so far?
Oh, well, there are many. Yeah. So another Corvallis story. We played this show called the Tour de Franzia, which, for the unanointed, Franzia is, I believe, the world's most popular wine. It comes in a box because glass is wasteful. And the idea is you dress up in a costume and you get just really wine drunk and ride your bike around in a costume. So it's really safe. And then you end up at this giant party in a park and there are bands there. And so I just remember also being blasted, playing to a crowd of like 150 to 200 just drunk college students. So everyone was in a similar mindset. And the energy was incredible. I remember looking up, there was like a kid in the rafters in this like awning that were not an awning, like a shelter that we were in, pouring wine out of the bag onto the crowd. I drank wine out of a Camelback, and we finished the end of our set. And I looked over, and the bass player he has his bass strings, and he's slamming his bass on the ground and trying to break the strings, and then he does. It was wild. That was pretty crazy. You meet some interesting people playing music. Like, I don't know if this has happened to you, but like crazies will just come talk to you.
Yes, it has happened to me.
Okay,
in the restroom is always fun.
Yeah. So do they talk to you on the street too? Like when you're not playing music, do people just like come up and accost you? And
not often.
Okay, they always talk to me. It's like I have a homing beacon. Exclusively crazy people talk to me. It's phenomenal. That's why you're here. So at a gig recently, I'm hanging out on set break, and lady comes up. She's talking to my bandmate. They're talking. She doesn't know me, so I'm just quiet. She looks at me. She starts asking me questions and stuff. She's clearly drunk. I don't really want to have this conversation right now. Like one-word answers, trying to be nice.
Right. That's always a tough line to toe.
And she just looks at me and she's like, I love your aura. Are you prophetic? I'm like, nope.
You're not.
And she's like, so you've never been driving on the road and be like, I should change lanes right now, and then a car crash happens in front of you? Literally never. And she just goes on and on about like this aura that I supposedly have. I thought I had an aura once. I think it was just gas. And
methane.
Yeah, that's my aura. And she keeps talking and talking. She's like, be prepared to embrace the millions that are coming to you. And my bandmate's like, can I have some? I'm like, sure, buddy, of course.
Share the wealth, I guess.
You know it. She's like, not millions of dollars. Shit. Millions of people? Can I have like $20? Can I have some money? I don't need a lot, but some would be cool. And she keeps talking. And she's like, the woman you are with is very lucky to have you. You will be blessed with a child in the next 2 years. I'm like, false. No. So like now I have this prophecy where there will be millions coming to me, not money, and I'm going to have a kid in the next 2 years. So I have no money and a child that are
that's
theoretically
not a good situation.
No.
I've done that.
So that's what's going to happen. You asked for my plans for the future. I guess I'm just waiting for this prophecy to come true. Wow. I'm not terribly excited about it.
Yeah, it's not a life for everybody, you know. If you're doing what you want right now, then it's not gonna fit into those plans. Those are good stories. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what other books, artists, musicians, photographers, creative people would you recommend? Like if you want to think about each one of those. So books.
Oh man, I think everyone should read Cannery Row and Sweet Thursday, just because I like them so much. John Steinbeck is really easy to read too. They're not like difficult books. Like I feel like if you have a handle on Harry Potter, you can figure it out. Let's see, films. I like movies a lot. I would recommend, it kind of depends what you're into, but so Kevin Spacey did awful things for years, but American Beauty is like one of my favorite movies of all time. And like, I love it so much that I don't know that I could stop watching it after everything that's come out about him. Not to excuse like any of the things that like he for sure did, but that movie for me was just kind of like right place, right time. I was a senior in high school, really into existentialism, and just there's this guy that just gave up. I was like, oh, that's me. This is great. So I love that film. I really like The Big Lebowski is probably my favorite comedy. And then music, I don't know, just interact with art and stuff.
Yeah.
It's creative things.
Find stuff that you're into and go with it.
Yeah.
So what would your advice to 16-year-old Nathan be if you could go back and give that young man some advice or some tips?
Oh, he wouldn't listen.
Of course. But is there anything you've learned along your way that you wish you would have learned maybe at a younger age? Or would you just do it the same?
Feel like I would have to. I think there are probably things that I should have done differently, but I'm not certain that if I was told to do them differently, that it would have even. I try not to think about that a whole lot.
So how do musicians and creative artists keep from being obscure or obsolete, unknown?
Oh, I mean, there's so much luck involved that, like, it's hard to. I don't think that should be anybody's end goal.
Right.
You know, to
be known.
If you're doing it to be famous, you're not doing it for the right reasons. You should do it. Like, I understand, like, wanting to put in the effort and, like, being able to take it as far as it will go.
Right.
But that's the operative phrase, right? Like,
as far as it will go. That's well put, actually.
But you can't expect to be the next, Beatles or whatever, or
sure,
Arctic Monkeys or whatever it is you're wanting to do. There's just so many things that have to go your way, or people you have to know. But if you want to take it as far as you will go, nothing beats networking. You have to go out and network. You can't be too tired to go out to a show that's not yours. You've got to go out and meet people. You have to make people believe in you, right? Luck, God, there's some stupid Tony Robbins-esque phrase, but I think it's so true. It's like luck is where opportunity and preparedness meet. So you can practice and be really prepared so that when you get offered that big show from the friend that you met who's in a bigger band, that's in front of a few hundred people, and you're going to be able to sell a bunch of merch, and you're going to be able to get, like, say, 20 of those people to your next show.
Right.
And get 30 Facebook likes or whatever. And you have to do that consistently.
So consistency is a big part of it as well.
Stay as consistent as possible for as long as possible, and don't slack off.
Right.
Like, it's a lot of stupid hard work. If you wait for someone to give you a record deal, you're going to be waiting a long fucking time.
True. Very true. Yeah, another way that I've heard that put is, the harder I work, the luckier I am, basically.
And I mean, you don't necessarily have to be good at your job to be a hard worker.
True.
You just have to put in the work.
Yeah. And then you get better.
And then you get better. Right.
I think that it's a running theme through these podcasts. So how important do you feel like music and the arts are to society?
Oh, incredibly.
And any examples of that?
Oh, well, I mean, forms of escapism are incredibly important. When we spend all day worried about, different things like this proposal, that proposal, I have to work on this project, or I have to pay this bill. It's nice to go out and see a show, or, like, do something that for the price of going out to dinner, I can fucking not worry for an hour and a half. And I can like have this experience that I get to, that I just have now,
I like that. It is an experience. I think that's hugely important. A lot of people put a lot of emphasis on stuff, on material things. And I think our experiences are really
that's what defines us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Like, I have a lot of stuff I'll never use. But no, experiences are incredibly important.
So should musicians and creative artists just go for it, or get a stable job and do their art on the side? You've kind of spoken about this, but...
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you value, right? I like what I have here. Mm-hmm. So I like the security of having a stable job. That makes me feel a lot better about stuff. For me, not having to worry about what bills I'm going to be able to pay this month allows me to really focus on stuff. Mm-hmm. And in the time that I have to focus on stuff, I'm able to do that.
You can do your best work because you're not stressed out about...
Right, and that's just how it works for me. If people don't care about stuff, I like what I have here, and I feel I'm able, just the way my mind works, I'm able to work a lot better and with a lot more volume, the things that I want to do, if I don't have to worry about what bills I'm going to pay.
Yeah.
Other people value things differently, right? So, I want to have a space where I can come back to, and, like, my computer and my cat's here, I have all my stuff. I get to sleep in the same bed every night, and, like, it's clean-ish. Like, I don't have to worry about stuff.
Right.
Not to say that I don't think I'd be fine, like, living as a bohemian as well, but I did that, and it gets tiring.
Yeah.
So this is, I don't know, for where I'm at right now, this is nice. But I can't speak for anyone else other than myself.
That makes sense. So what is the difference that you see between professional musicians, semi-professionals, and hobbyists? So if you think of 3 levels,
It's a good question. How are we defining professional?
good question. So I think professional, as in a majority of their income comes from this one thing,
Okay.
as opposed to they make some money doing it, as opposed to they're just learning it and it's just for fun.
Okay. Well, I'd suppose like really the ability to show up and be on the ball
Yeah.
is something that like a professional musician, someone I have encountered very few. Someone like Ben Jones, who's a real pro.
Yeah.
Who's just like, he's just great. He's just great. Or Jonathan Chase, another bass player who has a day gig, but like has played with Victor Wooten and just stupid good. Or Chandler Bowerman, the regular drummer for Love Sloth, makes all his money playing gigs.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen him miss a beat ever. And like the one's always on the one. It's not behind. It's not in front of. It's on the one every time. Another thing is just like the ability to be versatile. I can approximate a number of different guitar styles, but I can really only play rock. Like I can play rock. I can play some 7 and 9 chords. So I guess I can fake blues. I can play some jazzy style chords, but I can't play jazz to save my life. But like for somebody to show up and be able to do all of those things convincingly, you know, someone like Chris Miller, who goes out and plays on the road with Dave Alvin, and he can play, who was in the Blasters. Dave's now doing like some bluesy country sort of thing. And Chris will come back and play classic Bakersfield style country, or he'll play slide guitar for 6 months, or he can play like all the Thin Lizzy and Jimi Hendrix stuff convincingly. And so he can really do it. He's not someone that can just, and you know, in the 80s he was in a rockabilly band that had a hit on the radio, and like he's been that.
Yeah.
I think everyone has a love of music. It's just some people want to put in the work to take it further than others.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there's nothing wrong with somebody doing it as a hobby if it's fun and it fulfills something in their life. I think that's great. Like,
right.
I don't think there's anything better than that. You know, I think it's really cool. It's just I see a difference when I think about who's traveling in, for lack of a better example, Paul McCartney's band, as opposed to who's playing the gig at the pub down the street right now. There is a difference there.
Oh, absolutely. Not everyone can be a Rusty Anderson or you know, a Carter Beauford.
Right.
There's like some with virtuosic talents. But also, all Carter Beauford does is play drums all day.
Right.
I assume. If he's not like eating or sleeping, I'm guessing he's probably behind a drum kit somewhere. And like you have to get to a certain level before you're that first call. And there's given, like anything in life, there's give and take. And so what do you want to give up in order to attain that?
And is it worth it to you in the big picture?
Exactly.
Can music or art help people, and in what ways?
Like in a therapeutic sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it can evoke an emotion, and that's what it's designed to do. Certainly, I think any good art should evoke emotion. And if it makes you feel something and that something helps you like work through something else, that's nice. If you have lyrics that you can recite as a mantra for yourself, you know, that aren't like born to lose and destined to fail, which was a tattoo I once wanted to get.
Wow.
Yeah, all the tattoos I've ever wanted, like 3 years later, I've been, oh, so glad.
You seem
glad I didn't do that.
You seem relatively optimistic. I don't see that being something you would...
There was once a time. As long as you can, I don't know, like you'll have to do all the hard emotional work. But yeah, I think art can be helpful. I think it can help you process things. And if it's there to evoke emotion and inspire introspection, then certainly.
What are skills that are important for everyone to learn?
I don't know. I think everyone should probably learn how to cook, at least a couple things, because that's helpful. Everyone should learn how to... If one has a partner, people should probably learn how to speak to their partner about like issues you're having without it kind of blowing up and becoming a whole thing.
So communicating.
Everyone should learn how to communicate well. And I don't know, learn how to research stuff and like vet stuff, you know, and then you're not getting all your news from Facebook, and we don't have measles outbreaks, and you know, the stuff. The stuff that could be avoided.
What are some social issues that people should care more about, in your opinion?
I think there are many. I think we should really consider access to education in this country, I think is big. I think human trafficking and sex trafficking, especially along the I-5 corridor, is something that really needs to be talked about more. This is one of the biggest human trafficking markets in, if not the country, the world. You know, up and down the West Coast and even into Canada, people come trying to run away from something, or people looking to find themselves, and they end up getting taken advantage of, picked up, and sold into essentially slavery. And that's not happening like years ago. This is happening today, probably as we speak. So I mean, like, that's pretty awful. Yeah, so you like that's pretty
awful.
bad.
Yeah, that's really bad.
It's our environmental impact. As I sit here with my heater on. Does it need to be on? I mean, maybe, but it feels better if it is.
Yeah.
Our general environmental impact. I wish I had better answers for you.
It's okay. Those are good answers. You don't have to solve all of them.
I can't solve any of them.
Maybe you can help by not contributing to them.
Well, I don't think I'll be human trafficking anyone. For one, I don't have a car. Can't move anyone.
If you take cars away from everybody, then nobody can do it.
Yeah, it would probably solve the environmental crisis as well. Well, at least put a dent in it. I think we should run for president.
We just solved it.
All right.
Good job, Nate. Our work here's done.
Next issue.
What is it like working with musicians?
Well, it's like working with anyone. You know,
They're like people?
It's almost like they're like people.
Yeah.
Or singers.
Or singers. Because singers aren't people?
No, they're people, you know, just like less than.
Oh, this is going to go so well.
No,
I love it.
You meet a lot of different people. I think you have to be sensitive of how other people are feeling.
Yeah.
And things like that. You have to be sensitive of how you approach an issue with anyone. It's communication is key, and the biggest thing is to leave your ego at the door.
I think that's huge. That goes a long way. Yeah.
It's like it goes a long way to like show up and not be a dick, and that's a lesson I learned the hard way.
You did?
Oh yeah. I think more for me is like I thought I was being funny and I really wasn't.
Fair enough. Well, I think you're funny. Even when you're tearing me down and telling Michael Calloway he sucks.
Yeah, but he needs to hear it.
Does he?
No.
Is it good for him?
No, it's not good for him.
Okay.
He's
very good.
He's a phenomenal guitar player.
Yes, agreed. All right. So is there any way that we as artists and musicians can work together, help one another, and maintain creativity and our own vision for our own journey?
Absolutely. A rising tide certainly raises all ships, and I think if the artistic community wasn't so cliquey and kind of came together as a whole, at least in Portland or all around the world, we could give a voice to so many deserving artists. You know, someone like Anna Hoon in Portland. If you haven't heard her music, you really should. Or Sweet and Juicy, a funk band in Portland. Should listen to them. They're great.
Are any of them New Orleans transplants by any chance? Because I know there are quite a few musicians in Portland.
I don't know.
That came up from New Orleans, funk and otherwise, but I know that's a big style there. But obviously, you can be born in Portland and still play funk music.
You can.
It's true. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
that's good. All right, Nate. Are there any questions I should have asked you that I have not?
Not that I can think of. It's been thorough.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been good.
Find out more at artmedianorthwest.com. ARTMediaNW.com.